Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. Today I've got a really cool project for us to build. This is the Tamiya 1/35 scale super heavy assault mortar, the Sturmtiger. Basically what this was a late Tiger chassis that they had removed part of the superstructure and put this really large casemate on the front, as well as installing this 380 millimeter rocket propelled projectile. Just a massive piece of equipment. It was used as infantry support by the Germans in the later part of the war, and this actually weapon right here could penetrate up to 8 feet of reinforced concrete, so just a beast of a weapon. Now the kit came out in 1994 from Tamiya, and it's a very nice kit and very simple kit to put together. A little extra detail here and there really will make it pop. In fact, inside the kit, they are the individual link tracks that we're not going to use. We're going to be using the Fruel model track on the metal track to give it that nice weight sag on it. Plus, we're going to do something a little bit different this time. I'm actually going to go ahead and make the zimmerit from the side using epoxy putty. So it turns out really nice, and it really, since all of these, from what I understand, other than the prototype model, all had zimmerit on them, it's really accurate to put the zimmerit on it. So I thought we'd go ahead and show you guys how to do that as well. And there's not a lot of zimmerit, it's just mainly the sides, the front here, and a little bit on the back. So it's a fun project putting the zimmerit on, and it's the first thing you need to do actually in the vehicle build. So like I said, it's a pretty simple kit to put together, and other than the zimmerit, which will take us a little bit of time, but it should be a lot of fun. So let's get started on it. So to start off, the only thing you need to glue into place is the rear plate on the chassis. Now I've gone ahead and done the zimmerit on the back and one side, but on this side of the vehicle, I thought what I'd do is show you the steps in preparing to get the side ready. Right in through here, I've already chipped them off, or actually cut them off already. These are the attachment points for the side fender. Now I just used my sprue nippers and knocked it down, but now what I'll have to do is go over and sand those down completely flush. And actually, even up in here, we want to rough up the plastic just slightly, and that's just going to make the epoxy putty stick a little easier. You'll also notice too, I just put a little mark where this one is, where the top of this connection point and the top of this one, and that's just so we have a straight line to put the fender on, because we don't want to put any of the epoxy putty underneath the fender, because what's going to happen if you do that, the fender's going to sit all wonky on it. And what I've done on here is I just have a real straight line that you can cut out with an X-Acto knife. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sand off all of this part. Now you do want to leave these bolts on. These have to stay on there. We have to work around those. So I'm going to get these sanded down smooth, and I'll come back and show you the next step. Okay, now that we have the side sanded down, we can do the zimmerit on the side as well as the front plate. Now, what I'm going to be using for the zimmerit is Knead-A-Type blue and yellow epoxy putty tape. There's also other types of brands on the market if you can't find this particular one. And what it is it's an A and B putty that are put right next to each other, that when you mix them together, this yellow and blue, you're going to get a green putty. And it gives you quite a few hours to work with it, so you have a lot of time to mess around with it. It is very, very sticky though. So you do want to have a little thing of water on the standby to keep it from sticking to your fingers. And it won't damage the putty at all too while you're working with it. And also, I'm using, these are made by Trumpeter, and these are zimmeriting tools. This is basically just like a little wheel that's got the teeth cut into it. And this one is a rocker type to get into some of the different tighter areas that this one can't get into. So, to do the epoxy cut tape, you just take a little bit of it, just cut it. Now this is a little peel off the wrapper as well here, which that can be sometimes. There it goes. Now this is a little trick to get your putty working the very, very best. I like to go right down the middle of it and take the yellow off, and then take the center right here off. And the reason I do that is because they interact with each other and make them get hard, these start to chemically react as soon as they start to put it together. So this is fine if you're going to be doing something big and heavy, but if you're going to do something really thin and smooth like that, you can get a lot of chunks in it if you don't get rid of this little piece in the middle. So it's really kind of a pain if you don't. So once you get that together, just take these two and you're just going to mix them together back and forth until you get a uniform green color. And I'm going to work on that for a few minutes and I'll show you the next step. Okay, now I've thoroughly mixed the epoxy putty together, and I've just dipped it a little bit in water just so it doesn't stick to my fingers very well. And what I'm going to do now is just use our scissors again and cut a straight line, because the first one we'll do will be attaching it to the front plate. And with the straight line already on it, gives us a much easier process. And then you want to just start fitting it to it. And if it overhangs on this too, this stuff can be cut and sanded later on as well. So not a big deal if you don't get it exactly right and you want some of it hangs over. And then we're going to take our knife and just go in here. Now there, see what I talk about being very sticky, so you just gotta get it to work around this. And like I said, it's gonna take a little bit of time, but you'll be able to easily figure it out. And then I'll trim it around the bottom down here. I'm gonna get this all trimmed and ready to go, and I'll come back and show you the next step. Okay. I've got the piece all laid out just the way it is, and you might notice a few little marks in here already. I've kind of tried to get rid of them as best I could, and the camera slipped on me and I didn't realize it, and I was actually filming nothing for a while there. But I'll go over the process once more. Now that we've got this area nice and smoothed out just the way we want it, we can take our rolling piece and just take it and just drag it right down the line as straight as possible, getting those marks in there. And then the next one, you want to get it right up alongside and as straight as possible again. And you can see how you start to get your zimmerit pattern. And when you get to areas, let's say that if you have an area that's a little messed up or anything, or up the top that we didn't get much of an imprint, you can use this tool, once again dipping it in water because you don't want it to stick to it, and you can just push just on the top areas and you'll get a nice little fix on it. And then we just want to make sure that we got it as straight as possible. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go down the line and I'm going to finish all of the different rows. We'll do any repair we need to on it, and we'll come back and show you what it looks like once it's done. Okay, here is the front with the zimmerit on it. I've gone ahead and I've trimmed up the top here, so when we go to lay the casemate on, that it'll fit right into place here, as well as just trimmed up the bottom right here to make a nice level surface for it. Now I think we got it going pretty well here. Remembering now the zimmerit was a anti-magnetic paste that they would put on, similar to concrete. It had sawdust and a few other things mixed into it, but it was designed to keep a magnetic mine from sticking to the vehicle. So it was hand applied, and it was applied kind of, if you look at pictures of the real stuff, not super evenly. In fact, these patterns were always cut into it, and that was that if it was to take a small shell or anything, that it would split off in that small area rather than shake the whole thing and have the entire piece come off in one big giant sheet. So uniformity is not always the best thing we're putting on zimmerit. So, but it's totally up to you. If you want it messier than this, if you want it more uniform, your model, you get to do whatever you want with it. Now that we have that portion done, this is the next part we're going to work. I've started stretching out a long piece of the epoxy putty, and I'm not going to be able to do all of this right on camera because it requires me to get in there quite a bit, but we want to line it up pretty well with the marks that we made on there. And we can just rip this excess off right here so it's not hanging, and then you want to start pushing it into place. Once again, remembering to keep your fingers wet because, like I said, it is very sticky stuff. And I'm going to work this back and forth. Now right away you see the bolt heads pop out that I was showing you earlier. We're going to have to carefully take our razor knife and cut those out, trim the top here. This is going to take me a little bit of time based on the way I did it on the other side. So I'm going to work on this for a little bit. I won't put the pattern in yet, but I will get it all cleaned up, show you. That's just something you're just going to have to just keep working with yourself there. But I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done with it. Okay, I've spent some time now leveling out the surface as best as possible so we can get fairly uniform look. I do have to clean up a couple of those bolts because the more I push down on it, some of it got covered over. I trimmed the top, but I've still been working on it so we can trim that actually after it dries as well. Now I've taken this side skirt and I've put it into place, and the reason we're going to do that is just temporarily there. We can take our X-Acto knife and just cut right across the top here, because you can see there's a lot of excess from flattening it out, and we don't want the side skirts to be, like I was telling you earlier, wavy or not looking like they're fitting well. Also had another little tiny mistake. I put this down on a piece of the leftover stuff. Didn't realize it right away. When I picked it up, it started pulling some of the excess off, which I took a little bit of an X-Acto knife blade and kind of chipped at it a little bit, and I think it actually looks pretty good as some damaged zimmerit. So I might try to do a little damage up on the side as well. We'll see how that is, but I'm going to leave that the way it is because I actually like it. Looking at real pictures of the Sturmtiger, they do have some damage here and there, so I think it'll look pretty good for it. So now that we have that into place, basically we can take our zimmeriting tool again, and you can see there's some fingerprints here. Before you do that, try to buff those out as best as possible. It'll just make it much easier later on. And just taking your zimmerit tool, just go right up the line, doing the exact same thing as before. And you can use this tool rather than the wheel because it's such a small area. And also when you come around the back too, make sure that you made up the two sides. I'll do a lot of cleanup on that as well later on. But so now that you see how this works, it's much easier to do this when there's not a camera in front of you. So I'm going to cut that, finish up zimmeriting the entire side, and then because of the stickiness of this product, it is best to let it dry overnight. So I'm not going to do any more work on this vehicle after I put the zimmerit on. We're just going to let it sit overnight, dry. That way we can come back tomorrow, do any trimming, and we don't have to worry about it peeling off so easily, you know, because if you got sticky hands or anything. So I will come back and show you what it looks like with all the zimmerit on it before we do any more building on the kit though. Well, here we are. Here is our zimmerit put onto the side. Now I've removed the side skirt, and when I saw that I removed the side skirt, I had some kind of thick edges right here. So I'm taking my zimmerit tool and just going back over those edges just to kind of thin them down a little bit. Now once it fully dries, we'll be able to go back over it with our razor knife and just cut a thin line across the piece like I've done here, and then we'll be able to just flick that pieces off, put our side skirt back into place here. This way we just don't have an area that looks too thick. I had one on the other side that was slightly like that, but thought I'm definitely going to take care of it on this side a little bit better. And keep our front. This is the side, and this is a little bit thick right here. Once you put the side skirt on it, you don't really notice it, but without it, I try to make it as uniform as possible. And then the back is on there as well. That's still drying on it. So it's a Tiger kit, so there are quite a few road wheels. Luckily these are steel wheels, so I'll start working on that. And I'll also show you a little bit of the track assembly going together. Okay, the epoxy putty is dried enough now that I've started to glue on some of the lower chassis parts. All the suspension arms got put into place, as well as the frontal part here where the drive sprocket and the return idler go. And then it's just going to be a matter of simple enough of just stacking up the road wheels to create this. Now I am not gluing any of these on right now, and that's because they are steel wheels. We do want to put a little bit of a metallic color on the outside edge. Now I haven't sanded these, I just cut these off the sprue just to kind of show how they're all going to line up. And it's pretty straightforward, just stack them up. Get your drive sprocket on the front here. I'm not going to glue that into place either. Your return idler. And then finally you just stack your outer road wheel, and you'll have your interlace pattern that you need to have for it. But like I said, I want to paint them up, and I do want to put the metallic color on the outside edge so it looks more realistic. So might be able to, well, actually I'll probably just put these down on a piece of tape and paint each individual one, even the one in the back here that you're not going to see at all, but we'll still paint them up. I pulled the wheels back off so we can sand them, but in the meantime we can go ahead and glue the front plate on, as well as the engine deck. Now the engine deck, I've attached all the little tiny parts onto it, and then we'll just glue that into place. Now I'm just going to put this into place just to show you how it's going to fit on. There's still some fitting areas we have to clean up a little bit. We also have to build the entire inside of the casemate as well. So, but you can kind of get a general idea how it's going to fit on top of it. That's why we want to really keep the top of this clean after you get your zimmer on. Sand it down, make sure that it's nice and smooth, and this piece will fit right on top of it. But I'm going to go ahead and start filling the inside, getting this all sanded up, and we'll start working inside here. The front of the vehicle, you need to make a cut on the zimmerit that we applied that is going to fit this little plate in here. And I've managed to get it to fit right up alongside of it there. And this is part's going to hold the part of the casemate to the lower hull. Show you how the weapon is assembled on this. There are some little screws and nuts that need to be fitted in here carefully. Then it's a matter of placing the gun barrel in, followed by the other side of the ball mount, and that'll give you a little bit of side-to-side motion on it. And then we can go ahead and glue this together. And then with that, go ahead and glue these pieces in as well. I'll go ahead and glue all these in after I'm done showing you how it mostly goes together. And then this screw will be threaded in here, and that'll tighten it up on both sides. With that being done, we'll be able to actually put that in there, that piece, and then your breech will fit onto the other side. And then you also get the option of either an open or closed breech. I chose the closed breech and didn't find it necessary to have it open on this. So I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of these parts together, and then I'll show you how it fits inside the casemate. Okay, here's the assembled gun, and I chose the version that has the big massive counterweight on the outer ring. And then this will just get glued up into place here, and you'll have a workable gun that can have a little bit of side to side, but quite a bit of elevation on it. Okay, I've gone ahead and I've glued on all of the little parts that go on here from these bolt heads, which were actually a little bit easier than I thought to put on. I thought they were going to be kind of a pain to sand, as well as all the hanging brackets. The back hatch remains open. You can leave these upper hatches open or closed. I just chose to put them in the closed position. Now that we have that portion of it done, this will literally just drop right into place right here. It fits very well. And then we can go ahead and put the little bracket that mounts the casemate to the hull right in through here. And then we can also glue on all of our fenders. Might wait to the last to glue on the fenders just so it's easier to get the tracks on and off. Also, one other thing too, I decided to go ahead and put the wheels on, and what I did was I just glued the outer road wheel of this on. All of these still spin, so we can still paint them all completely, but this way it's going to be a lot easier than lining up and getting all those road wheels on a piece of tape and not blowing all over the place. So we've also left the the drive sprocket off, and that is just mainly to get put it up inside the track, so the track will line up a lot easier. But we'll paint those separately. So I think what we'll do now is go ahead and glue this casemate on, get all of the other little fenders and stuff ready to go. I've also assembled the crane. I'm not sure if I'm going to put it on. And this is the the little crane that comes with the kit. I went ahead and made a little loop and put some rope inside of there to give it like it's supposed to. And that'll just mount right inside there. You don't have to put it on. I'm still kind of debating right now whether or not I am going to put it on, but I will paint it up and I'll have it. So if I decide, I'll always have it. Okay, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I was going to go ahead, because it is a Tiger kit, I'm going to use the Fruhl model tracks on it. And for any of you that are not familiar with Fruhl model tracks are metal tracks that are designed, and the nicest part, because they are metal, they have a lot of weight to them. So they have a natural sag that's really hard to duplicate sometimes with rubber bands, but nothing I think looks better on this. They're a little expensive, and you have to get them from Hungary, at least over in the United States. But if you can get a hold of them, I would definitely recommend them. Now I'm going to show you some basics. Fruhl model tracks give you a big spool of wire inside of it, but I like using staples. And the reason I like using staples are because staples are square, so when they go inside the round hole, they wedge in there nicely, and you don't have to worry about super gluing the end in. So the first thing I'll show you is I like to take just a little thing of staples, maybe about 25, 30 of them, and just taking a pair of needle nose, just bend the staples out till you get them to an L shape like this right here, which I've already done a couple of them. And then you individually, you can just lay them down on the thing and just taking your X-Acto knife, just one by one, splitting them off. And if you take a little bit of time in the beginning and just split all these off, once you have them on, they'll go together very easily. Just line them up right here, get them together, and most of the time they'll just squeeze right on in, and that's the nice part about leaving that L shape right there, is you don't have to poke your finger through. And then when you get to the very end, just take your needle nose again and just push it the rest of the way in, and with your cutters here, just give it a little nip on the end. Pull it out, but wedge that back inside there, and that piece is ready to go. And takes probably about maybe about 2 hours to knock off a whole side of track. You will probably need to have a pin vise ready to go, because every once in a while you'll get one that's not hollowed all the way through, and it's sometimes hard to push the staple through. It's kind of rare, but have that ready just in case. So like I said, for 2 hours worth of work on it, you're going to get just a beautiful, beautiful set of tracks. And the little pin side will always go on the inside of the vehicle, so you won't worry about seeing that, because the outside is already finished off. So I'm going to go ahead and knock the rest of these tracks out. There's about 97 links per side. So we're almost done with this side right here, and then we'll do the both, and then I'll show you how to paint them and weather them. Okay, now that we have the tracks all assembled, we're going to give them the first base coat of using NATO Black. And we're going to completely saturate and cover the entire piece of track. I let the first coat of the black dry on the tracks. After that dried, I went and sprayed it with a layer of dull coat. And the reason you want to do that is because the paint will come off very easily off the metal tracks. The dull coat will help seal it in quite a bit. And then I went and slightly touched up over them with the a little bit more black, just to get them a more even coat. Now we're going to take some of our color that looks kind of like the chipping color. This is a mixture of 40% NATO black, 50% NATO brown, and 10% red. And we're just going to give the tracks a light mist coat to kind of give them kind of a tarnish color, so they're not just so stark black. This is about the color that we're looking to get with the brownish color sprayed on it. And it kind of gives you a little bit of an oxidized color, but it makes a nice base coat. So now, using the Vallejo Desert Dust as our fixer, we've mixed it in a little cap here with a little water to kind of thin it out a little bit. We're going to just start applying it into all the crevices of the track. You want it to be kind of wet. Make sure you've got good coverage. And you don't want to do too much at a time, because you don't want too much of it drying up on you. Just do probably like maybe 10-15 tracks. at a time. Make sure we've got it all smeared into there. And then as our first coat, we're going to use our light sienna. And just start applying. And we're also going to add a little bit of the European earth too at the same time. Kind of blend it together as we go. And as you see, as it starts to dry, how the color changes. And we will do one final application of like a dark steel color on the very edges of those to brighten them up. But just kind of showing you quickly what we're looking for in this. Just going to mix it up right here on my board. So I'm going to let that dry a little bit and we'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, now I've finished up the black and white coat on here. So now we're going to spray the entire vehicle with XF60 dark yellow as its base coat. Okay, I've jumped ahead a little bit here, but I'll kind of go over what I've done so far. I obviously went and painted the full camouflage, and I sealed the entire model in TS80 Tamiya's clear. Put our decals on, there's only two, one on each side. Sealed it one more time, and now what I'm in the process of doing is just going over with a little bit of our chipping color and blotting it out on a piece of torn sponge. And we're just going to do some light chipping. See if I can do this without getting my hand in front of the camera. Just across some of the area. We're not going to beat it up too badly, but this is the first stage of getting a little wear and tear on it. And I've started doing this areas already, so. Don't know, like it's been out in the fields for a couple of years, but we want to make it look like it has seen a little bit of use. So we'll go overhead and do that. Also, we can take our real fine tip paintbrush, and you can also, if you wanted to, put any type of little little longer scratches. Some subtle little things like that. And I'll kind of go over the entire vehicle with the chipping right now, and then I'll come back and show you the next step. Okay, now I'm taking a little mineral spirits, some odorless ones, and putting just a thin coat to wet the surface, especially over some of the areas of the zimmerit. And after we've done that, we're going to just take MIG's streaking grime and just do a few little areas. And yes, it is going on pretty heavy right now. And yeah, I'm putting it on a little thick right now, but don't forget, once you take your brush still has a little bit of thinner on it, you go over it and start streaking out. And that'll get rid of a lot of that, the excess, but it will leave a couple of marks coming down the side. And like I was telling you earlier, I'm not going to dwell too much longer on each one of these steps for the weathering, because this is very similar to other videos. So I'm going to go over the whole vehicle using the streaking technique, and I'll probably be using a touch of the light rust color as well as a streaking rust, and not necessarily to give it a rust look, because they're kind of like a darkish red brown. I think it just makes a nice nice stain color coming down on all this. We also want some of this zimmerit to pop out a little bit, so we'll put a little bit around and through those areas. So I'm going to work on all that, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Here we are. Here is our completed model. I'm going to give you a little spin around. I've installed some of the tools on there, as well as we put a little bit of a metallic finish on the front of the road wheels, as well as the drive sprocket. And I'll just kind of answer this question, because this is a question I get called on all the time. I use this S&J spray, it's a polishing powder basically, and I've had this bottle for about 6 years. This company, unfortunately, I believe is out of business right now, and this bottle is enough probably to last me 100 years. So everyone always asks me about that. So any type, if you can find a polishing powder that's a metal color, it probably would do the exact same thing that this does. Now I'll kind of give you a close-up of the zimmerit, and I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. Kind of show you the front zimmerit as well. Looking at pictures online, it looks very similar to what they show the real zimmerit to look like. Now the kit itself, the Sturmtiger, is pretty straightforward kit to put together. Part count is not very high. It's fit together wonderfully. I was actually pretty surprised at all this, even after the zimmerit, everything still fit really, really well. So I want to thank you guys as always for watching, and please stay tuned because we have more videos coming.